My friends, we live in a time when the world seems louder, colder, and more divided than ever before. But I came here to remind you of something simple, something eternal. Be kind. Kindness isn't weakness. It isn't softness. It's not about being agreeable or being liked. No, kindness is strength wrapped in love. Kindness is the language of heaven spoken in the quiet moments when no one is watching. Kindness is a command, not a suggestion. The world may tell you, do what benefits you. Look out for number one, be tough or be taken. But a voice deeper than the noise calls out to us, love your neighbor, bless those who curse you, do good to those who hate you, not because they deserve it, but because kindness changes everything. Let me tell you something, kindness reflects the heart of the divine. When you're kind, you're showing a glimpse of grace, a piece of mercy, a reflection of the love that created the stars and still cares enough to count the tears that fall from your eyes at night. And hear me on this, kindness is power, not the power to dominate, but the power to transform. A kind word has lifted more heads than 1,000 speeches. A kind gesture has turned more lives around than all the condemnation in the world. Kindness begins where judgment ends. We're so quick to label, to draw lines, to point fingers. But have you ever stopped to ask, what burden is that person carrying? You never know what war someone is fighting on the inside because, not because they're right, but because they're human. And let me say this, my friend, kindness is courage. It's a look past offense. To show love in a world that celebrates vengeance. But when you choose kindness, you're not just doing a good thing, you're doing a holy thing. And finally, this world is starving for kindness. It's hungering for hearts that don't just preach, but reach. People are walking around broken, bitter, empty, and they don't need more noise. They need compassion, a touch, a smile, a listening ear, a gentle heart. It's what kindness looks like. So tonight, tomorrow, and every day after, be kind in your words and your thoughts. Be kind when it's easy and especially when it's not, because kindness is not just something we do. It's who we're called to be. And when you are kind, you are part of something greater than yourself. You are echoing eternity. Kindness is not a decoration you wear when the world is watching, not a coat you put on when the weather of your mood is pleasant, not a decoration to be hung only in seasons of peace, but it is a fire that burns through circumstance, a divine order that speaks louder than our convenience, louder than our moods, louder than what they did or said or didn't do. And it calls us not to feel our way into it, but to walk in it regardless of the terrain we face. It is not something you choose based on who stands before you, whether they're a friend or stranger, ally or enemy, clean or broken, but something that flows because you have tasted a greater love, a deeper mercy, and now you're bound by something higher than preference, higher than politics, higher than comfort, because kindness was never meant to wait for the perfect moment. It is the perfect moment. And let me say this. When you choose kindness, you are not just doing a good thing. You are becoming part of a divine movement, a cosmic plan that transcends time and space, a movement that began in the Garden of Eden when the Creator reached down to a fallen world with a hand of grace. And it continues today in every act of compassion, in every moment of understanding, in every gesture that says, I see you, I hear you, I care for you. Because when we are kind, we are participating in the very nature of the one who created us. This world, friends, is so quick to judge, so quick to condemn, so quick to cut others down. But when we choose kindness, we are making a statement that we are not of this world. We are of a kingdom where mercy reigns, where forgiveness is abundant, where peace overflows. Where love is the law, and that kingdom is not far away. It is right here in our hearts and our hands and our words and the way we treat one another. That kindness reflects the heart of that kingdom and the character of the kingdom. And so when you reach out in kindness, you're embodying a power that is beyond your own, a power that transcends human strength, because the kindest of acts, the act of loving someone despite their failure, of offering a hand to someone who cannot repay you, does not come from human will, but from the divine will working through you. As the Spirit of God takes up residence in your heart and empowers you to love with the love that He has given you, and that love, that kind, is the truest expression of God's character. It is not a kindness born of obligation, not a kindness given with strings attached, but a kindness born of the deepest understanding that we too were once lost, once in need of mercy, once drowning in our own sin and shame. And the kindness we show to others is the overflow of the kindness God has shown us. And just as he did not hold back his mercy, we cannot afford to hold back ours, because every act of kindness is an echo of the grace that saved us, the grace that redeemed, the grace that continues to work within us to make us more like him. Kindness is a reflection of divine character, reaches beyond what is deserved. It doesn't count the wrongs. It doesn't keep score. It doesn't base its actions on how much someone has done for us or how much they've hurt us. It simply gives freely, just as the Father gives freely. Just as the Father gives freely. Just as Christ gave his life freely, just as the Holy Spirit pours his presence freely into our lives without demand, without expectation. Because kindness is the embodiment of God's unearned, unmerited, undeserved grace. And when we act with kindness, we mirror the divine. We reflect the one who is. So when you're faced with a choice, when you have the opportunity to be kind or to withhold, to offer grace or to turn away, remember this: you are not just representing yourself, you are reflecting the divine. And in that moment, in that act of kindness, you become the hands and feet of the Savior, the voice of the compassionate one, the heart of the Father. And as you reflect his nature, his love, his kindness, you become a living witness to the character of God. And the world begins to see that kindness is not just something else we do. It is who we are because it is who he is. Kindness, my friends, is not some gentle or insignificant act that fades away with a passing moment, but a force of the power that ripples through time and space, through hearts and lives. And when it is given, it holds the potential to change the course of history, to soften the hardest of, to heal wounds that no medicine can touch, to repair relationships broken by years of bitterness, to restore dignity to those who have been stripped of it. Because kindness, when it is truly given, becomes a catalyst for transformation. A moment that turns everything upside down and sets the world on a different course, whether we see it or not, whether we know the impact or not, because the power of kindness is not measured by the size of the gesture, but by the depth of the heart behind it. You see, kindness is not weak. It is not powerless. It is not a mere nicety. It is a weapon in the hands of those who are willing to wield it. A weapon that dismantles hatred, breaks down barriers, and opens doors that were once shut tight by fear, by anger, by misunderstanding. And it doesn't need to be loud or dramatic. For even the smallest acts of kindness, words spoken in quiet grace, a hand offered in compassion, a moment of listening, have the power to change a person's life, to shift their perspective, to lift their spirit from despair to hope. Because kindness is the silent force that works behind the scenes, that moves hearts even when no one is watching, that continues to echo long after the moment has passed. And here's the truth: kindness is not just a momentary act. It is seed planted in the soil of the heart. And when it is planted, it grows, it multiplies, it spreads. It ripples outward in ways that we may never see. And you may never know that your kind word, your kind action, your kind gesture has sparked a chain reaction that touches lives far beyond your reach, far beyond your comprehension, because kindness never stays confined to the one who gives it. It moves, it spreads, it breathes life into other people. It multiplies itself in ways we could never measure. And in this way, it carries an infinite potential, a power that reaches into eternity. The power of kindness is not of this world. It doesn't depend on human strength, human wisdom, or human understanding, but it flows from a place deeper than all of that. It flows from the heart of God himself, who loved us when we were unlovable, who reached out when we turned away, who offered forgiveness when we didn't deserve it. And when we choose kindness, we are aligning ourselves with the divine will. We are participating in the eternal work of redemption, because the kindness that flows through us is a reflection of the greater kindness of God. A kindness that has the power to transform lives, to change hearts, to turn sinners into saints, to turn enemies into friends, to turn death into life. Kindness has the power to tear down the walls of division, to bridge gaps that seem insurmountable, to heal wounds that seem too deep to mend, because it speaks a language that transcends every barrier, every difference, every misunderstanding. And when we speak kindness, we are speaking the universal language of love, a language that unites, a language that heals, a language that says, I see you, I hear you, I value you. And in this way, kindness is a revolution. It is a quiet, humble revolution that moves the hearts of men and women to a higher place, to a better way, to a life that is richer in grace and in mercy. And this revolution, though often unnoticed, is changing the world, one act at a time. And hear me when I say this: kindness has power not only in the lives of those who receive it, but also in the lives of those who give it. Because when we show kindness, we are opening ourselves to the deep joy that comes from being the hands and feet of the divine, from being conduits of a love that knows no end, from being part of a bigger story that is about something greater than our small, selfish lives. And in giving kindness, we are also receiving. We're receiving the peace that comes from being aligned with the heart of God. We are receiving the joy that comes from seeing someone else lifted. We are receiving the satisfaction of knowing that in this small act, we are making a difference in ways that we will never fully comprehend. The power of kindness is not easily seen, and often it is hidden in the shadows, but make no mistake, it is a power that moves mountains, that changes lives, that alters the course of history. Because in a world where there is so much darkness, so much hatred, so much division, the smallest act of kindness is like a spark in the dark, like a drop of water in the desert, like a light in the night. And you may not see the full impact of your kindness. You may not witness the ripple effect it causes, but that doesn't make it any less powerful, because the power of kindness does not depend on our ability to see the result. It depends on the faith that what we give, no matter how small, it will have an eternal effect. And so, my friends, when you choose kindness, when you choose to speak life rather than death, when you choose to bless rather than curse, when you choose to love rather than hate, you are engaging in a power beyond measure, a power that cannot be contained, a power that does not fade away, a power that has the ability to change everything. And it is a power that we all have at our disposal, because kindness is not reserved for the few. It is a gift given to all, and it is the greatest power we have to offer. Because when we give it, we are giving a piece of eternity. We are giving the love of God in action, and the power that will never. Kindness, my friends, begins the moment we decide to side our judgment, to put down the scales by which we measure others, to turn away from the reflex to criticize, to condemn, to label, because judgment is the enemy of love. And when we choose judgment, we are choosing to see only the faults, the failures, the flaws. But when we choose kindness, we choose to see the humanity, the heart, the potential in the other person. And it is in this moment, when judgment is laid aside and love is allowed to take its place, that kindness becomes possible. Because kindness does not begin with the harshness of comparison. It begins in the freedom of grace. A grace that refuses to count the wrongs, but instead chooses to extend a hand and say, and you see, when we stop judging others, when we stop assuming we know their story, when we stop acting as though we are better than they, we open ourselves up to the possibility of real connection, to the gift of seeing people as they are, broken, yes, but also beloved, hurting, yes, but also worthy of compassion, struggling, yes, but also capable of being lifted. Because kindness begins the moment we stop making assumptions about others' lives, and instead we make room for their struggles, their fears, their pains. And in that space, kindness begins to take root. It begins to grow. Judgment, when it is left unchecked, can turn into bitterness, can turn into anger, can turn into walls that divide us from one another, from seeing one another as we truly are, from seeing beyond the surface to the heart beneath, because judgment always seeks to separate, to push away, to draw lines. But kindness, on the other hand, has the power to unite, to bring together, to bridge the gaps that judgment seeks to widen. And it's in this beautiful paradox that we find that kindness is the antidote to division. It is the balm that heals wounds caused by harsh words, cruel thoughts, and broken relationships. And it is only when judgment ends that kindness can truly begin. Kindness begins when we choose not to let the mistakes of others define them, when we refuse to see them through the lens of their past errors, when we choose to see them as something more than the sum of their worst decisions, and when we look at others not with eyes that criticize or with hearts that condemn, but with eyes that understand, with hearts that are tender, with souls that have felt the weight of their own faults and know what it means to be forgiven, because judgment tells them who they are based on a moment, but kindness sees them for who they can be, who they are meant to be. And yes, kindness requires us to let go of our desire to control, to dominate, to fix others, to place ourselves in the position of the judge and jury, because we can never truly show kindness until we lay down the weapon of judgment and pick up the tool of love, a tool that does not try to change others by force, but seeks to encourage, to uplift, to support, because true kindness does not judge someone for where they are, but walks with them to where they are going, standing beside them with patience, with empathy, with understanding, believing in the potential of the human heart. It's easy to judge. It's easy to point the finger, to look at the flaws in others and compare them to our own perceived perfection. But it takes courage to let kindness rule instead, to not allow our first instinct to be to tear down, but to lift, to let our hearts be moved by the plight of others and not hardened by their imperfections. Because kindness, my friends, is the choice to rise above the human instinct to judge. And instead we choose to love, to walk alongside, to give grace, to forgive. And in doing so, we break the chains that judgment places on us and on others, and we are free to love. And let me tell you, kindness begins where judgment ends, because judgment always seeks to isolate, but kindness always seeks to restore, to heal, to build. And where judgment creates division, kindness creates community. Where judgment creates barriers, kindness creates bridges. Where judgment creates resentment, kindness creates peace. And it is in this powerful exchange, in this sacred act, that we find the true freedom of being able to look at someone, not through the eyes of condemnation, but through the eyes of compassion. And when we do that, kindness flows. Kindness heals. Kindness has the power to change lives, to change hearts, to transform the very atmosphere we inhabit, because where judgment ends, kindness has the room to thrive. So today, let's choose kindness. Let's choose to stop judging, to stop condemning, to stop holding people to a standard we would never want to be held to ourselves. And instead, let's choose to see them as they are, as we are, broken but loved, flawed but worthy, lost but redeemable. Because when judgment ends, kindness begins, and when kindness begins, hearts are softened, lives are transformed, and we become part of something greater than ourselves, part of a movement of grace, of love, of healing, of peace. And it all starts with one simple choice: to stop judging and to start loving, to start being kind. Kindness, my friends, is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of strength. For it takes far more courage to be kind in a world that often rewards hardness, to extend compassion when others would build walls, to speak gently when the world demands that you shout, and to love when the natural response might be to withdraw or to retaliate, because true kindness is not born of passivity or timidity, but of a deep inner strength that rises above the pressures, the expectations, and the harshness of this world. A courage that chooses to respond with grace instead of anger, to offer help instead of judgment, to be a light in the darkness when others would choose to hide. You see, it takes courage to be kind, because it means being vulnerable. It means opening your heart to others, even when you know it might be hurt. It means risking rejection, misunderstanding, or even exploitation. Because kindness does not come with guarantees, does not promise that others will appreciate it or return it or even recognize it, but you choose it anyway. And in that choice, you show a bravery that is more powerful than the strength it takes to fight or to defend yourself. Because to choose kindness in a world that often misunderstands it is to choose to stand firm in the face of opposition, to act with love when the world wants you to act with indifference, to be a rock of compassion when the tides of hate and fear arise. Kindness requires more courage than cruelty can be cowardly. It hides behind insults, behind cruelty, behind quick judgments, behind actions that push others down to make oneself feel superior. But kindness stands tall, it stands firm, and it does not shy away from the hard work of being good, of doing right, of showing love, even when it costs something. Because kindness does not come from a place of fear or insecurity, but from a place of strength, but strength that is rooted in knowing that love is more powerful than hate. That gentleness can carry more weight than force, and that in giving kindness, you are participating in a force far greater than anything this world can throw at you. It takes courage to look past the flaws in others, to see beyond their mistakes, and to love them anyway. For it is easy to judge, easy to point out all the reasons why someone doesn't deserve kindness, but it takes real strength to look at them with eyes of mercy, with a heart that knows that we all have been in need of grace, that we all have fallen short, and that kindness is not about who deserves it, but about the willingness to offer it, regardless of what has been given in return. Because kindness sees the humanity in others, even when it is hidden behind the scars of life, and it says, I will love you anyway. Courageous kindness is not the easy road, is not the natural response, because the natural response is often to protect oneself, to withdraw from others, to keep your guard up. But kindness says, I will stand in the gap. I will extend my hand even when it might be rejected. I will offer forgiveness even when it feels undeserved. I will love even when it costs me something. And in doing so comes a force that brings healing, that breaks down barriers, that builds bridges where division once stood. Because kindness, my friends, is never weak. It is the mightiest force in the universe, and it takes a warrior's heart to wield it, a heart that is not afraid to love in the face of hate, to bring peace in the face of chaos, to show mercy in the face of judgment. And what a beautiful thing it is when we understand that kindness is not the absence of strength, but the presence of a courage that defies the world's expectations, that refuses to give in to the temptation to fight fire with fire, to meet harshness with harshness, to return cruelty for cruelty. But instead, kindness chooses to respond with tenderness, or to be the hope when all seems lost. And in this, we find that kindness is not passive. It is not passive. It is not weak. It is active. It is deliberate. It is a force that can shift the atmosphere, change hearts, and transform lives. And it takes a brave soul to wield that kind of power. And so, my friends, when the world tells you to be tough, to build walls, to defend yourself at all costs, remember this. True strength is found in the courage to be kind. True courage is found in the willingness to love, to offer grace, to extend mercy even when it's hard. Because kindness is not the absence of strength. It is the presence of a heart that knows what it means to be loved, to be forgiven, to be restored. And in sharing that mercy, we reflect the greatest strength, the strength of God's love for us. The love that conquered death, that overcame sin, that lifted us from the ashes and gave us new life. And this love, this kindness is the greatest power. So let us be bold in our kindness. Let us be brave in our love. Let us not shrink back from the call to extend grace, but let us step forward. Let us rise to the challenge. Let us stand strong in the power of kindness, knowing that it is the truest form of courage, the truest form of strength. And that in choosing kindness, we are not only changing the world around us, but we are becoming the very reflection of the courage that God himself showed when he chose to love us first, when he chose to die for us, when he chose to forgive us. And when we live this kind of courage, we become part of a greater story, a story of love, of redemption, of strength that is found in grace. The world, my friends, is starving, not for food, not for wealth, not for power, but for kindness, because in every corner of this earth, there are hearts that are hungry, hungry for a word of encouragement, hungry for a touch of compassion, hungry for a sign that they are not invisible, that they matter, that they are seen. And though we live in a world filled with plenty of resources, plenty of distractions, and plenty of noise, it is the quiet, humble gift of kindness that so many are lacking. And they search for it in relationships and encounters in the smallest of gestures. And yet so often it is in short supply, and the world continues to hunger for the simplest and most powerful act of all, kindness. You see, kindness is the food that nourishes the soul, the medicine that heals emotional wounds, the balm that soothes broken hearts, and yet it is so often neglected, overlooked, or replaced by harshness, indifference, or apathy. And in the absence of kindness, people are left starving for connection, for understanding, for the kind of love that doesn't ask for anything in return. The kind of love that is offered freely, without condition, without judgment, without expectation. And it is this deep and essential need for kindness that causes many to feel empty, to feel isolated, to feel that something is missing, because in the end, it is kindness that fills the void and satisfies the hunger for human connection. And as the world continues to become more divided, more fractured, more overwhelmed by the pressures of life, the hunger for kindness only grows. Because what we are longing for is not more things, not more distractions, but more genuine acts of care, more moments of grace, more people who are willing to see beyond their own needs and extend a hand to those around them. And yet in a society that so often rewards competition, comparison, and self-interest, kindness is often overlooked as something too simple, too small, too insignificant to make a real difference. And yet it is this very simplicity that holds the power to transform lives, to bring healing, to restore dignity, and to meet the deepest need of the human heart, the need to be loved. The world is starving for kindness because so many are carrying burdens that no one can see, carrying pain that is hidden behind smiles, behind walls, behind busyness. And in the rush of life, we forget that everyone we meet is carrying something, and what they need most is not our judgment, not our criticism, not our impatience, but our kindness, our willingness to pause, to listen, to offer a word of encouragement, to extend compassion when others might turn away, because kindness has the power to reach past the outer appearance, past the walls that people build, and speak directly to the soul, to remind that they are not alone, that they are worth caring for, that they are worthy of kindness. And in that moment, the hunger is satisfied, the need is met. And yet so often we are too caught up in our own struggles, our own desires, our own plans, to recognize the deep hunger in others, because kindness requires us to be present, to be aware, to see beyond our own lives and notice the needs of those around us. And this is where the world's hunger for kindness becomes a challenge for us, because it demands something of us. It demands that we slow down, that we step out of our own self-centeredness, that we take the time to offer a kind word, a warm smile, a helping hand, because kindness is not about what we get, but what we give, and it is in giving kindness freely that we help satisfy the hunger that so many are experiencing, often without us even realizing. Kindness, my friends, is not just an act. It is a mindset, a way of living, a choice that we make every day, and it is in the daily small acts of kindness that the world finds the sustenance it so desperately needs, because the hunger for kindness is not just about grand gestures. It's about the everyday, seemingly insignificant moments, holding the door for someone, listening without judgment, offering a compliment, giving a smile, being patient in the face of frustration. And in these simple acts, we have the power to feed the soul, to nourish the heart, to fill the empty places in the lives of those around us. And when we live this way, we become part of a movement, a kind that is greater than ourselves, a movement that can heal, restore, and transform. The truth is, when kindness is present, it changes the atmosphere. It brings light where there is darkness, peace where there is chaos, hope where there is despair, because kindness does not simply fill a need. It changes the heart, it lifts the spirit, it softens the soul, and when we give kindness, we are giving something that has the power to ripple out into the world, to touch lives, to make a difference in ways we cannot always see or understand, but we know that every act of kindness is like a seed planted, a seed that will grow, that will bear fruit, that will multiply. And in this way, the world's hunger for kindness is not just multiplied, spreading from one person to another until it becomes a movement of compassion, a wave of love that touches the world. So, my friends, let us recognize the world's hunger for kindness and choose to be the ones who feed it, to be the ones who offer what is most needed in a world that is so often starved for care, for love, for grace, because when we choose kindness, we are choosing to meet the deepest needs of others, to offer them the nourishment they are longing for, to satisfy their hunger with the one thing that truly fills the soul, the one thing that can heal broken hearts, the one thing that can change lives. And in this, we become part of something far greater than ourselves, an ever-growing movement of kindness that has the power to transform the world one act at a time.